Hello again, and welcome to Hot Takes! Today, I want to discuss Ruby Rose's relationships with Penny Polendina and Oscar Pine, and more specifically, some of what I feel to be misconceptions about the nature of said relationships. But first, a thank you to my wonderful patrons. Now, just to be clear, I am not here to disparage any romantic ships or even disregard their friendships. It is clear that these are two people Ruby cares for greatly and who care about her a great deal in turn. My contention here is rooted more in how I often find the fandom presenting their relationships as overly idealized. That is to say, framing them, regardless of romance or not, as unproblematic, super healthy and lacking in any troubles she might have with others. With any issues that there might be being rooted in plot-related stuff rather than tied to their actual dynamics or characters or personalities. I think that these takes on the relationships miss out on a lot of the dramatic weight and potential drama when it comes to these pairings. First, let's discuss Ruby and Penny's relationship. It's adorable, it's caring, it's rooted in a deep sense of respect, they have a lot of similarities and a clear and present admiration for the other, as well as an easy sense of camaraderie.
What are you doing here?
Just hanging out with a friend while she's on the job.
Yeah, real cute.
It's also a relationship between two people with minor complexes that could crush a whale. Yes, as of Volume 9, Ruby has started dealing with this, but within the confines of Volume 7 and 8, no she has not, and even then, we don't know how far she's gotten on this topic. But Ruby is only one side of the equation, and Penny is someone who also defaults to sacrificing herself the moment the opportunity arises and constantly needs to be talked down from doing so. Ruby's default strategy for engaging with villains is to put herself front and center and in as much harm's way as possible to both make her point and be ready to counter them with no regard for her own safety. This does not lead to mutual understanding, however. Their response to each other's attitudes is less, "Oh, this is bad for both of us," and more, "Don't worry, you're not responsible for fixing every problem in the world, I am."
Tell me how to help you. Kill me.
Both these girls are perpetually falling on their swords, and their relationship, whatever form it takes, is basically a race to see who can sacrifice themselves for the other first. It's still good and still sweet, but they've got some heavy complexes to work through. Now we move on to Oscar. These two definitely have a lot in common thematically. Both are younger than their peers, but thrust into a position of protector, defender, and straight-up leaders, let alone them mutually being the caretakers for adults' emotional well-beings and stability a la Crow and Ironwood respectively. Plus, they do just seem to vibe and flow on a similar wavelength. However, there's a particular scene in V5 that often gets highlighted for what puts Oscar and Ruby beyond and above reproach, namely after Oscar confesses his various concerns and terrors and Ruby talks him through them.
People have tried to kill you. The world's about to go to war all over again. How are you okay with any of this?
When Beacon fell, I lost two of my friends, Penny Polendina and Pira Nikos. I didn't know them for very long, but that doesn't change the fact that they were two of the most kind-hearted people I'd ever met. I'd be lying if I said that it didn't hurt. That I didn't think about them every day since I lost them. That I didn't wish I had spent more time with them. If it had been me instead, I know they would have kept fighting too, no matter how dangerous it was. So that's what I choose to do. To keep moving forward.
Oscar notes when she's gone how hard this must be on Ruby, a factor which, as V9 showed, is not always obvious to others, in part because of how Ruby tries to obscure it. I can see why people jump on this scene, but I have two issues with it. Oscar and Ruby's burdens are very different. Despite what Ozpin says about Oscar wanting more, he still had his position thrust upon him with zero agency. Ruby has chosen to become a huntress and keep fighting of her own will, even as it harms her. More to the point, Oscar's issues with his circumstances are highly tied to his identity being eaten by the guy inside his head, while Ruby's are living up to impossible standards and endless duty against an implacable foe. They also don't respond to these situations in the same way. Oscar is fine blending into the background, and while frustrated if his ideas don't work, he doesn't take them to heart too much. See Ironwood. Ruby feels she is responsible for everything, be it due to herself, Ozpin, or her own allies, and she's fraying under that weight. But secondly, and perhaps more demonstrative, is that this must be hard on her too line, which is good, but people tend to gloss over the fact that this seems to be setting up how much Oscar admires Ruby for seemingly not being impacted by it the way he is. Why do I say that? Well, in Volume 5, when Ruby is full on passed out, Oscar drops everything to try and get her to wake up and save them.
Ruby, get up! Get up! We need you!
This is something we see Blake do in Volume 8, which was explicitly tied to how much pressure and exhaustion Ruby is feeling. These scenes and Oscar's willingness to always look to Ruby for the lead indicate Oscar has fallen for the front that Ruby's put up as well. Thus, it's less we understand and support each other through our mutual understanding and more you are clearly the ideal hero I can only aspire to be on Oscar's part, while Ruby just grins and pushes forward. Again, she is dealing with some of this, but that's only one side of the equation. Still, as I said, they do have a good relationship, and Oscar's certainly not bereft of agency or his own ideas, but it's far more complicated than is often presented in the fandom. And that's all for today. If you'd like to help support my work, please swing by my Patreon. If you'd like to commission 3D models, please hit up my Ko-fi. Thanks for tuning in.